And the show just is all ready for you guys whenever you're ready.
We can take it away.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Glass Half Sports. Today is August 12th, 2021. I hope you are having a good and much drier part of your morning than we were having in Minnesota. If you are from anywhere else in the country, thank you for joining us. I am one half of your hosting duties, Nicholas Huffman, and I hope you are doing as well as Jose Berrios has been since being traded to the Blue Jays in 12 innings of one-run baseball, folks. We told you he was an ace, and Mike was wrong. To my right, that would be that individual right there. Say what is up, and how are you doing today?
How's it going, everybody? This is Mike Mensing, who's still going to be proven correctly on the Berrios trade.
Yeah, probably not.
Just wait.
Probably not. Yeah, guys, if you like the sounds of these two voices right here and want to share it with the rest of your sports fanatics, you can find us on what platforms, Mike?
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube. And if you miss us on Thursdays, you can catch us on MCN6 at 1 o'clock on Saturdays.
That's right, folks. We are on basic cable. We have made it big time, I think.
Like Wayne's World.
That's right. We're going to be on cable.
Yep.
What do we got for the show today, Mike?
Pretty big show. We're really ramping up to football season.
So it
go
is.
Through our predictions.
4
That's going to
weeks
be
away.
one big part of our show today. We have to talk about the best player for the Minnesota Wild, possibly going back to Russia.
Not possibly being a part of the Minnesota Wild anymore.
Correct.
Yep.
We have a cool segment today called Deal or No Deal. We're going to go. Yeah, what's that?
Throwback to the TV show.
Right, exactly. I got my Howie Mandel haircut going. And we're going to go. We're going to go through a few big contracts around the sports world and just see if those are good deals or not. We're going to talk about the Vikings' first release of their depth chart.
Yep.
And whether or not that will stay
The way it is, yeah.
NFC West predictions, I believe. And then we're going to talk about
East,
AFC West as well.
Yeah, NFC and AFC.
Yep. So we're going to cover the West Coast in the NFL, and then the Michael Thomas drama will be our glass half topic of the day.
Yeah, because
and we brought a coin today.
We did bring it's right here, folks. Look, we are back on track on this
prepared.
show. We are prepared-ish. So, I guess unless you got anything you want to touch on from over the weekend, Mike, we can jump right into the Wild making a mess of things as every Minnesota
hockey.
Sports team does. Yeah, we're going to talk hockey.
We're going to talk
in
hockey.
August.
Right. Yep. Here we
in
go.
August. So it came out via a tweet, from Frank at Frank Cervelli, that Kirill Kaprizov has had kind of a verbal or tentative agreement with a club out in Moscow to return to international play of hockey, because even though there have been reports that the Minnesota Wild have been eyeballing a 7 or 8 year contract, no offer has even been made. This is insane. Like, where do you think this is coming from?
I think part of it is the Wild don't know what to do. It's kind of the wait and make a decision, wait and make a decision, wait and make a decision, but they haven't made a decision.
No.
And Kirill is just like, all right, well, I'm not going to wait anymore.
Yeah, I don't know how you can be in a place where you have the best player in hockey, and best young star in hockey for sure, and not
One of the best players
and
in
not
hockey.
be in constant conversation with him about what his value is.
Right.
So if there's any truth behind the fact that there has not been an offer made, I do have a question that can take us back to our glass half segment from the buyouts. Do you think this has anything to do with the fact that the Wild have not figured out how to put a contract on the table that is good for them both short or long term, due to the 2 back-to-back years where we have $26 million in dead cap space, and they feel like even if they got him re-signed, they wouldn't be able to field the team around him?
I mean, it's definitely possible. It's $26 million of your cap that's eaten up from that move.
From 2 guys that are never going to play, not going to be on the ice.
Right. You just have to find a way to field the team around this star
Right now.
Maybe with young talent. You know, that's what I would be thinking is let's flip the roster over. Let's make them all young and develop.
Yeah, or go like veteran minimum on
Right. Maybe on a few
guys. Yeah.
just for that leadership in the locker room. But I think what they need to do is try to re-sign them to, like, just honestly, a 1 to 2, maybe a 2 to 3 year deal, and reevaluate at that time. And I think Kirill would like that as well, because he's going to play lights out during that time.
And he'll get a bigger,
he'll get a bigger contract.
I would agree with that. I think that is the answer, but it's just absolutely absurd to me that if there's any truth to a deal not being offered to him at this point. How do you get away with that as a hockey franchise? How could you imagine if this would have happened with Patty Kane or Ovechkin or Sidney Crosby after their first deals?
Well, of course, it doesn't happen there. Those
Because
players didn't play for Minnesota.
But this is the fucking state of hockey, right, Mike? No, this is what I was talking about with the buyouts.
This is the state of ineptitude front offices. Inept front offices. That's what it is.
Very accurate. We're gonna get Mike a T-shirt that says that. But it's one of those things. Like when we were talking about the buyouts, when we were talking about what the Wild were gonna do in free agency and how they should approach this offseason, when I told you I didn't have any confidence in the front office, it was leading me to believe something like this was possible. This should never even be something that's on the table. Even if you had way over offered or way under offered to figure out where you need to be at this point, you should have made some form of public contractual, offer to a guy that could very well be the face of the franchise, or the face not only of your franchise, but the NHL within the next 3 to 5 years.
Right.
I don't get it. I don't get it. What are we doing wrong?
Like I said when we very first started the segment, I think the Wild don't know what to do, so they're doing nothing.
That's just
Does that make
worst
sense?
way to.
Like they don't know how to approach the situation, so they're just sitting on their hands to not fuck it up.
Yeah, you got it. Would be correct, right? It's just this is. I don't know, man, and this is gonna hurt. This is gonna be one that'll turn me away from
Does he play
Minnesota
for the
Wild
Wild this winter? Do we figure it out? Do we find a way?
Yeah, but I'm really afraid of what it's gonna turn into.
I'm gonna say yeah, just because I'm a Wild fan, and I hope to God that we can figure it out.
Yeah, I don't want to. You're seeing it. It's now officially based on something like this, because I also saw another report. There have been a couple articles written around how Kaprizov's going to change the way NHL contracts are written for a long, long time. This is the player empowerment era. We talked about it when he won the Rookie of the Year award. You got to give this guy input, roster moves, whatever it is that you got to do to make him feel as comfortable as humanly possible and get him to stay in-house. That's what you need to do. You just need to go to him with pretty much a blank check and say, what's it going to take?
I mean, I agree. I agree totally. If you want to be competitive in this league, you have to basically start
with a star,
empowering your players.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Definitely. Absolutely. I mean, because the bond that they're going to have with the players that they can then bring in when you give them that kind of power has evidently worked in almost every other platform. So I would believe that it's going to work in the NHL as well, because these guys train together and play together in the offseason when they're out doing other things. So it just makes more sense. Yeah, but I would like to see a 2-year deal done with a player option for a third. That'll give us the opportunity to see if we can move some of this dead cap money around, find a way to build a team over the next 2 years without it, and then maybe just offer him, a ton of control, after the 2 years are up, after he's willing, if he's willing to stay through the cap penalties that we did or whatever. But this is very quickly going to turn us into the New Orleans Saints, who are selling pieces left and right and having guys retire because they screwed themselves into cap purgatory.
Right. And as great as Kaprizov was last year, it was 1 year.
Yeah.
Right? It's a small sample size, and that's why personally I would like to see a small contract. I don't necessarily want to commit to 8 years to him with a massive contract right now. Well, as great as he was last year, that's an extremely small sample size.
Well, I think if you're going to do the long-term deal, the only way it makes sense is if you do 8, but you set it up like a Patrick Mahomes deal where you backload the majority of the money.
Sure.
And then as he outperforms these contracts, you can kick cap space from back here up into signing bonuses and guaranteed money in the current. So that way you can always tip the scales a little bit. So yeah, maybe, 5 or 6 million over the next 2-3 years. And then in year 3, if he bump it up, then it goes to 9,
maybe have built-in benchmarks. So if he scores X amount of goals or
all
has
pro
X
teams,
amount of
all
points,
stars, Stanley Cups
it
won.
increases the contract for the next year.
Absolutely. That's the type of deal that I think is what these guys are writing about. It's going to have to be something that is going to allow us to not be strapped by giving him max money now, but letting him know that the money is there for him.
But exactly. Letting him play into the money.
Right.
Like, you play well enough, this contract is built in a way that if you play well enough, you will get paid.
Now.
Yeah.
And then we'll figure out the back end later. Right. Yeah, no, right. I would completely agree. Let us know what you guys think on what the Kaprizov deal is going to look like, if he's going to be in Minnesota, or if we're going to have to watch him over in Moscow playing
That's what I was
hockey.
going to say. Let us know if you think that he'll be wearing a Wild sweater or not this winter.
So, or if an offer is ever actually going to get made.
There's something weird with the chat function right now, but Todd Mensing is saying pay him. So I wanted to shout that out.
Todd, we are on your side.
Yep.
Pay that man.
We agree.
So, yeah, it's a tricky situation. So from one deal to a bunch of deals, we can get into our segment of the day, which is deal or no deal. There's been a lot of money thrown around between the NBA and the NFL, particularly over the last 2 weeks. So me and Mike wanted to take a look at some of these contracts and figure out for the top, like, headline level stars, if the money was worth it or if the money was not, both for the player and for the team. So we can, as soon as Gabe gets that first tweet up, we can launch into the first star, which is Kevin Durant. Decided to stay in Brooklyn, 4-year extension, roughly $198 million. What are your thoughts, Mike? You think this was a good deal for Brooklyn, and was it the right deal for KD?
I think Kevin Durant is probably the best basketball player in the world right now.
You can drop the probably.
Okay. But he has a durability issue.
Okay, that's fair.
I want to say off the top of my head, the past 3 or 4 years, he's been severely injured 3 or 4 times.
Been banged up.
So I'm guessing the comment that we just received there is from the Kirill contract as well.
Todd Mensing said, make it incentive based.
Yeah,
agree.
That's exactly what we were talking about as well. The only thing about this contract, it's great for KD, obviously. I think if he would have switched teams again, his legacy just continues to take a hit.
I agree.
Wearing different colors. So it's good for him and his legacy. I think it's a decent move for the Nets. If he stays healthy, it's a great move.
Yeah, I think at this point in his career, and I hate to speak of a guy like this like he's on his last legs or whatever. I think KD has plenty of basketball left in him, because
I would say he's over the peak though.
But he's not the type of explosive scorer that is going to deteriorate like a LeBron James or a Shaquille O'Neal.
He's more of a pure shooter.
Right, he's a bucket getter. He's the Slim Reaper, right? Like, he can do it all, and he doesn't need to do it jumping over guys, right? So like at this point in his career, I think this is the right move. It's going to give the Nets a centerpiece that they can build around as an established Mount Rushmore level veteran, who's going to control the locker room.
Right.
Okay. It's going to keep them in whatever winning window they want to be in for a while, securing him long term, maybe able to call him Kyrie. It may be able to give you the opportunity to see Harden take a little bit less money, or some of these younger guys that would choose to, maybe sometimes take the bigger deal when they know they're not on a winning team. They'll take the pay cuts, kind of like when you have Tom Brady in the building or a Peyton Manning in the building. Other than the fact that he has a little bit of a prickly personality, which I think has faded somewhat in the last 2 years. I haven't heard as much about it other than the stuff that he got into with Michael Rappaport on Twitter.
Yeah.
This is the right move. He's
a little bit of a weird dude.
This is the right move, because he'll be in his late 30s when this contract is over?
Yep. I was going to say 36, but let me triple check that. I'm usually pretty good at doing this quick. So how old is he currently? Let's see. Born in 88.
Okay. So
he's 33 right now.
Yeah, so this will put him at
30. Will be 33 in September.
So this will make him 37 by the time the contract's up. He can go and probably get another pretty decently sized 3-year deal and extend here, or he can go ring chase if he needs to on a smaller contract. I think this is the right move.
Or if he wins a couple rings in Brooklyn, this could be his last one.
Yeah, if that's what he wanted it to be, right? And that seems to be the projection. They are the odds-on favorite to come out of the East next year, even with some of the moves that have been made. So I think this gives flexibility to both sides. It wasn't above the two. We're going to get into a contract later that I think was absolutely fucking god-awful.
Okay.
But this was not that. I agreed with this deal on both sides, and I think the Nets are going to come out on the back end of this contract smelling like roses.
I would agree. I think this is a great move for both sides, especially if KD stays healthy.
I agree. So who do we got next, Mike?
Fred Warner,
That's
linebacker
big
for the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, this is pretty big. It looks like he's going to get 5-year, $95 million contract extension. At the time that he signed it, made him the highest paid inside linebacker in NFL history. He's got a very unique skill set, and I think that him and Nick Bosa are probably going to become what like J.J. Watt, and who was that linebacker that they had in the Texans for a while when their defense was really good? Whitney Merciless, or who was the guy that Brian Cushing?
Yep.
So
I
very much
haven't
see
heard that name in a while.
I very much see this being that platform. You take an edge rusher and an interior guy in your secondary, and then you find one other or in the middle of your defense, and then they're probably going to find somebody in their secondary that they're going to want to pay eventually, like they had been doing with Richard Sherman in the past. And those are going to be the three staple pieces for your defense. He plays the pass extremely well. He's good against the run.
He's extremely athletic, even for an NFL linebacker.
I worry if he does sustain some form of injury, if we wind up like a Patrick Willis form situation, who was the guy that retired early as a freak athlete at linebacker, but he seems to be a little bit more durable. So I personally like the deal. How about you?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think it's a good deal for both sides. Again, maybe a little high on the San Francisco side. If anything, maybe a little bit.
Maybe.
But I think this contract will carry him through the age of 30.
Okay.
At that time, the Niners will be able to reevaluate, see
Move
how
him if
durable
they
he
need
was
to.
during that contract. He's probably, in my opinion, a top 5 linebacker in the league right now.
You could argue top 3.
You could. Almost, he's very similar to the guy that we have here in Minnesota, in my opinion. Maybe a little bit more physical, but that athleticism that he can run sideline to sideline. He plays the pass extremely well.
Yeah.
He has good instincts. Not
I
afraid
think-
to stick his nose in there.
If you're referring to Aaron Kendricks, I think the only difference between the two is I think Kendricks probably has the higher IQ. Warner's probably the better athlete, but they're very much the same. They're very well. They're good at what they need to be good at when they need to be good at it.
Honestly, both of these two guys that we've been talking about, Warner and Kendricks, 10 years ago probably would have been safeties.
Yeah. No, I would agree
You
with
know
that.
what I mean?
Downhill Bob Sanders type safeties. Yep.
But just the NFL is changing and becoming more pass heavy. So now these are the freak athletes that we're starting to see in the middle. At 3 yards off the line of scrimmage, it's pretty insane.
No, yeah, and you can drop them back to play safety.
Right.
You can bring them up and roll them over the edge and have them pass rush a lot of these guys. You know what I mean? So it's just there's so many different places to put them that you almost have to. It reminds me of like what Christian McCaffrey got for his deal. You can't just pay him as a running back. You have to pay him as a running back and a receiver. You got to pay Fred Warner as a inside linebacker, a run stopper, a pass defender, a potential safety, the play caller of your defense. So there's a lot that goes into a contract like this. So I think you might be right on it being 95 may have been a tad high for
I
San
like
Francisco.
it. I don't love it.
Because I know that they're going to have some big names that they're going to have to re-sign at some point, but this also might be an indicator that Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to last more than this year either, because if he comes off their salary cap, you could
I think that plan is already in the works. When they took Trey Lance, that plan was already in the works.
So, so that's Fred Warner. After that,
next, let's talk about the dude who almost led Slovenia to a gold medal.
Yeah, and
was he like 17-1 in his Olympic games with them? Luka Doncic.
Luka Doncic, yeah, 5 years, $207 million with the Dallas Mavericks. This one was odd to me.
Okay.
The only reason why I think this one was odd is because before this contract had gotten signed, there was a lot of smoke coming out of the Dallas Maverick camp on how cohesive Luka was with the remainder of the roster and his coaching staff and Cuban in the front office. So I wonder if this is, hey, let's give him as much money as we can to try to shut him up and then kind of give him the keys to the franchise, because we have to pretty much make sure that we don't LeBron ourselves right out of the youngest superstar in basketball right now. But the coaching situation isn't set up well. Kristaps Porzingis is a bad contract to have on your books.
He's never hit what he was supposed to either.
Exactly. And so I don't know if this is going to seem like a bad deal if Dallas makes it a bad deal. Now you just got to steer into the skid.
I think this is a great deal.
Wow. Why?
Because they had no other option. Like you said, he's a top 5 talent. He's 22 years old. You're the only team that's able to offer him this Supermax extension with how the NBA works.
Mm-hmm.
You had to.
So you're telling me
you had to.
Situations are situational, and when you may have a pig that you think is a dog. What analogy did you use with me on Jose Barrios?
You're really comparing Jose Barrios right now and his talent level compared to the MLB and Luka Doncic and his talent level compared to the NBA.
My point was, you can't sit back and say, Well, you had to for one guy and not give the same respect to another one, especially when the other one didn't have a salary cap.
We didn't have to.
Okay.
With Jose.
We'll stay on Luka. No,
Jose Barrios, is he a top 10 pitcher? No, let's talk about this now. If you're going to bring it up, is he even a top 10 pitcher in the league?
over the last 2 starts, he is.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. That's about it. Luka's easily top 5 in the NBA, is he not?
I agree.
Okay.
And I think, and the other part that goes into this too is I want to see him take better care of his body. Like that has been well documented over the last 2 seasons when he gets into the playoffs and he plays kind of like what you saw happen to Michael Jordan early in his career. He'd get into the playoffs and then these teams play physical defense around him and he gets beat up and then it's hard for him to close series out. So I hope that him literally just having to backpack his Olympic team and do the most and know he doesn't have room to get banged up or whatever. He's just got to go out and get it. If that translates into what they see in Dallas, give him the keys, and this will be a great contract. If the same thing continues to repeat itself, where he does not have an MVP yet, I don't think he has a scoring title up to this point in his career, and they continually fall short both in the regular seasons for their seeding and the postseasons as to when they get bounced, then this is a bad deal.
How did the Mavericks win their title?
With one guy.
Was it one guy?
Dirk Nowitzki.
Or was it one guy and then they built around him role players?
That's true, because they had like Sean Marion and there were guys on that staff. But my worry is there have already been rumblings out there about him not being the best team player. Kristaps Porzingis made mention to that. You know, it's something you have to pay attention to.
The guy's in his young 20s.
Yeah.
He doesn't take care of his body because he's in his young 20s. He's probably not the greatest teammate because he's, what is he, 24?
Yeah, he's the youngest guy to get 200 plus.
Yeah, just wait. He will mature. He'll fall into his role as the leader of the team, I think. Especially, like, what I would do if I was the Mavs right now is look, how can we move Porzingis right now?
Yeah.
Because, like you said, that's a bad contract. They're paying him way too much for too little output. He's never truly reached his potential, in my opinion. Bring in 2-3 role players that can fill that void.
Yeah.
You know, let Luka truly shine. Like, this isn't a 1-2 show. This is a 1 show.
Right. And that's what I mean. Like, if he comes in and he's got the right mindset, you just need to hand him the keys. Yeah. So then we've got, this should be fun for you. This is a little bit of quarterback talk. We can go to Josh Allen and the soon-to-be Austin Bills, because I think Buffalo is going to, if you haven't heard the rumors, Buffalo said that if they don't get a new stadium, they are going to Austin.
Yeah, but how often do we hear that?
Well, you know, Jim Irsay flew over some random spaces at one point and apparently stirred up a bunch of stuff. And the Bears might be moving to Arlington, and Minnesota was going to leave at one point, but you know how this dance goes.
Exactly.
Right? But, hey, the Bills got their quarterback for the next 6 years in the middle of what looks like the right time to make this deal. And especially, I think the Bills did it right because they got the deal done before Lamar, before Baker. They got the deal done before some of the other quarterbacks outside of Patrick Mahomes, and probably saved themselves quite a bit of money in doing so because this guy does not have an MVP. Lamar Jackson does, and if Lamar Jackson would have gotten his deal and then Allen wins one this year and, you know, the situation flips, they could be looking at, instead of 258, they could be looking at close to $300 million. You know what I mean? So I think this was the right move on both sides. I don't think this hamstrings them too terribly cap wise, as you've seen in the NFL right now with a lot of the cap gymnastics that can be done, moving stuff up or kicking it back or whatever you need to do with cap space and the roster that they have. And they've 110%, like we said with Luka, just built around him. Great deal for me. This would be, I think, the highest graded one out of all the ones that we are going through today, in my opinion. How about you?
It's definitely up there. It's one of the better deals. I would honestly say the Fred Warner deal is probably the best deal.
Okay.
But the Josh Allen deal is a great deal for both sides. Allen's going to get paid. Gabe says, I wonder if they overpaid to help their leverage in an Austin deal.
Maybe not unheard of.
Yeah.
Right. Honestly, though, I would not want to be a quarterback in Texas anytime soon with Dak now. His arm's going to fall off and Deshaun Watson's case is popping up out of nowhere.
But if you're Josh Allen, you'd rather play in Buffalo, New York in the snow than in Austin?
No, it was a joke, Michael.
It wasn't funny.
You're not sorry.
But no, this is a great deal. The reason the Bills are who they are the past couple years is because of Josh Allen. They have a decent running game that can support him. They brought in Stephon Diggs to be his weapon.
Did they bring it back?
Yes, but I can't think of the name off the top of my head right now.
Okay, keep going.
They were giving the keys to Josh Allen before they gave him the keys, if that makes sense. They were laying out the red carpet. They were getting him ready, providing weapons around him. This team will be good for
6 years.
6 years. Yeah. I don't see another team in the AFC East, maybe the Dolphins, making a push, but this Bills team is good, man.
Yeah. I mean, the Bills team is good. I don't know if the Dolphins are going to be the ones to make a push if Tua's their quarterback. But
Was Matt Breida in Buffalo last year?
No.
So they
That
brought
might
in
be
Matt
him.
Breida,
That's
who's
a good
really
move.
fast.
Adrian Peterson would be a good fit for there.
And
Downhill back
They got
play
Devin.
action.
See, they like more
Scat back.
slender, speed.
Yeah.
So they have Devin Singletary, Matt Breida, and Tywan Jones are like the three that I know off the top of my head.
Okay. But yeah, no, this is a good deal. I like this. You ready to get to the worst contract on this entire list?
I would have to agree with you, unfortunately.
This is very reminiscent of when, and I love Kobe. Rest in peace to the Mamba. All the respect for everything that he did for basketball and for the city of LA when they could have been very bad for a very long time and he made sure that they weren't. But there was a point in time where you looked at the Kobe contract and went, they're not winning because he's making too much money.
Well, this is the Joe Mauer deal. Basically.
This is, and guess what? They just did the same thing to Steph Curry. Please, please, please do not leave. We will give you everything we have left in the bank. We understand that we're not going to be able to duplicate another title run here anytime soon. So let's just pay you so
Really?
you don't leave.
You're going to flat out say that they can't do anything.
There is something going on in Golden State that doesn't make sense to me. I understand that Curry carried that team, but Draymond is getting older. I don't think Wiseman is a good fit. Klay Thompson might actually just want to become a number one at some point on a team where he knows he can go. There's just this type of, and then what worried me, not so much was the contract, but was the statement made after the contract where Steph came out and somebody had asked him, do you trust in the organization? Like it was a canned question and he had a canned response for it.
Sure.
He is not, something is going on and I'm going to watch this very closely because I believe like I say, where there's smoke, there's fire. And this is going to be a very, very bad deal for the Warriors. And I think part of the reason why they did it subconsciously is because this will also be a very hard contract to unload when it does fall apart because his cap hit will be too high for the age that he's at, knowing he's injury prone. I do not like this deal for Steph Curry or the Warriors because this could end very badly.
I like it for Steph Curry because the man's going to get paid. Right?
Yeah.
Warriors-wise, you have a very shrinking winning window.
Yeah.
Klay, Steph, and Draymond are all over 30.
Yep.
You brought in Wiseman, who had an injury-riddled rookie season.
Yep.
He showed flashes. Where he could develop into a good five for them. They don't need a five that shoots.
They need a rebounder.
They need a big
and a paint
presence
defender
down low, right? Bringing in Jonathan Kuminga this draft could supplement as well. This team has so much firepower because of the way that they play. When you live and die by the three, you will live and die by the three.
Yep.
And last year obviously didn't work for them because Steph was hurt majority of the year.
And that's because of his workload, I think. You know what I mean? Like when Klay's not out there, who is the other scorer? We all know what Andrew Wiggins is, not a bucket getter. Kelly Oubre underperforming, and I believe will be gone at this year's trade deadline.
See, the only thing is when you have a team like that can put up 18, 21 points in 7 possessions, 6, 7 possessions, just back to back to back to back to back. That's deadly. And watch them get hot. That's the thing is if they get hot, they could win a ring, period.
True. Absolutely. This team is never out of it, and especially with Steve Kerr at head coach, right? But my question is, if Steph doesn't win one and KD does that change the way you looked at those Warriors teams?
No,
even
because
more?
KD has Kyrie and James Harden.
No. I'm just saying for when KD was in Golden State, everybody was like, nah, it's Steph's team, but he's just taking the step back for Durant. And Golden State struggled with LeBron. If Steph doesn't get another win, another title, or even another NBA Finals appearance, which I think is the most likely scenario where he doesn't even get back, and
I would have to agree
KD
with
gets
you, actually.
one in the East or two because
I don't think it reflects though, because KD went and joined another super team.
No, he built that super team. He was one of the first ones to be in Brooklyn. Now, that may not matter, but that makes me look at the team that took out LeBron, the team that won when he was there, and when he won 2 back-to-back, finals MVPs, and go, okay, no. KD was the one, both in the locker room and on the floor, and Steph was the 2. That's what that tells me.
That team went 73-9 without KD though.
And then what happened? Steph started getting hurt, and it wasn't sustainable.
It's not necessarily a reflection on Steph as it is a reflection on their style of play.
LeBron has 7 rings if KD doesn't go to Golden State.
But Golden State's style of play is, again, living and dying by the 3.
True.
So if Steph has a bad game or 3, they're knocked out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So he has to be hot at all times. And that's why this is almost a good move for the Warriors. They pay a little bit too much. I will say that.
A lot too much.
But when Steph Curry is hot, he's one of the best basketball players in the league.
Yeah.
Like when he's hot, you can give him the ball possession after possession after possession and let him just rack up points.
I agree. I think this year is going to be very interesting to see. And especially now that he has this deal. If Dame goes out and outperforms him this year and Portland doesn't play well, what kind of money? Like, this is going to dictate heavily what Dame gets whatever team he goes to. Isn't Steph one of the easiest players in the NBA to build around? I think he's got great basketball IQ.
I would say yes and no, because they are just so 3-point shot heavy. You better either have other 3-point shooters around him, or Wiseman better start stepping it up as a big physical presence that can get those offensive rebounds and give him extra shots.
Opportunities. Yep.
Yep.
It's just, I think it's too much
You have
for
to fit the
Steph
style
to
of
handle
play.
on his own.
Yeah.
You can't do that in the NBA. It's not possible.
Sorry, can I butt in here real
Yeah.
quick?
Yeah, of course.
I'm just curious. So, I'm not the NBA genius here, but to me, he stretches the floor.
Yep.
He can shoot from fucking anywhere.
Yep.
If you want to get a big, if you want to, truly, to me, that's where I see it as like, you can actually get young talent in and see what develops, and he can grow with that person. I guess I don't know who he'd collide with or have issues with.
I don't think it's an issues thing. The way that I see it is you can build a team one of 2 ways. So Steph is Steph, and you can build around Steph and let him do what he does best, which is what I think what they did when they brought KD in. When Clay was younger, they had a defensive presence. Or you can do what they're doing now, and you can use Steph's abilities to band-aid other players' offensive deficiencies. And I think that is why, since KD has departed, the Warriors have struggled. They are not using Steph to the fullest of his capabilities. They're saying, hey, I need you to step up and cover 4 A, B, C, D.
But since KD left, how many years has KD been gone? 2? Didn't Clay get hurt in the first year and then Steph the second year?
Well,
They haven't been healthy.
Well, why do you think
KD
that
left.
is? Because they got
Injuries happen.
it's
Like
the-
I don't think you can blame every single injury ever on durability of the player.
It's different
Sometimes it's a freak accident.
I agree, but more oftentimes than not, even freak accidents like Kawhi's knee. Kawhi's had bad knees in the past. He's more susceptible to that. Steph is more likely to miss time with an ankle problem when he's got to spend more time in the lane, more time in the pick and roll instead of it just a spot up shooter and a distributor. So you have to keep those things in mind when you build a roster around a guy like this instead of doing what they're doing now.
See, the other point I was going to make is, as great of a shooter as Steph is, I would say he's more of a on-ball shooter. Like, he needs the ball in his hands to create the space for himself.
Yeah.
He's not a great catch and shoot shooter. So you can't really combine him with someone who can really attack the lane hard, like
Wiggins.
first name that comes to
Oubre.
mind. Yeah, Wiggins. The drive and kick to Steph is not as successful as it should be, and that's where Klay Thompson comes in, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this is a good move. Again, it's almost because Golden State was kind of handcuffed again. Like, what are you going to do? Let him go? and then he comes back and beats you, and then you're just in the gutter. Like, you have to. There was no one else that they were going to get that could fill that void.
Yeah.
Right? They were kind of handcuffed into that deal.
No, I agree.
And Steph could perform well
Absolutely.
and make them look like
he
geniuses.
He could have earned every dollar, but it's all about, for me, what's it going to look like as he's earning that money? Is he earning that money keeping them relevant, or is he earning that money helping that organization win championships? There's two different ways to look at that.
Right. All right. We got to move on.
We got to move on to the Vikings. First official depth chart has dropped ahead of the Broncos game at 3 p.m. at US Bank Stadium this Saturday. Obviously, Zim has touched on how he's going to spread out the time for his vets, his rookies, his starters, his second stringers. And there are a few things that jump out at you right away when you're looking at some of the position battles. And me and Mike wanted to walk through them with you and let you know if it's a cause for concern for some guys.
We might run through them.
Yeah, we're going to run through them. But we can start with the offensive line. Wyatt Davis, guard from Ohio State, listed third on the depth chart.
I don't hate it.
Guard.
I don't hate it. He's basically just has rookie camp and a few weeks of OTAs and then, training camp as well. He will not be third string for long.
I don't think so either. I think the most likely situation is that he starts the season as a second stringer,
I would agree.
as our swing guard. And I think
you just can't convince me that Dakota Dozier is better than this guy.
Yeah, my point exactly. And it's weird because it's Ezra Cleveland right now. It's Ollie Udoh, who, by the way, I hear is having a phenomenal camp. They are super high on him.
He better, because I've never been too impressed with him.
So, but yeah, I could very easily see him being like a swing guard, or even if somebody like Bradbury were to go down, Wyatt Davis, a size guy, a space eater at center wouldn't be a bad. So I think he's just going to sit with your second best interior lineman that isn't a starter.
Right.
By the time the season starts, but going to be very important to watch the preseason because he's going to get a lot of reps. So you're going to be able to see what it looks like for him to play 3 quarters.
Too, right?
Yeah.
Like, starters play a drive or two. Like, maybe Zim wants to just see him in action more, so he slides him down the depth chart.
Yep. We could do that. That's very possible. So we've got that one. We've got Christian Darrisaw as the second string left tackle instead of our starter.
Not too surprised. Rashad Hill is just that veteran presence, has done this, been around the block before.
He's been with the Vikes for a long time.
He's also been with the Vikings for a long time. He knows the system.
Yep. He is coming off an injury, the groin injury or whatever, from before rookie camp.
Yep.
So
Rashad Hill will probably start through week 4 or 5. And then I wouldn't be too shocked to see Darrisaw take over.
So you think we're going to get the traditional Zimmer first round pick rookie treatment?
Yep.
Swing lineman, nice way to say not good enough at either spot. Thank you, Tevin Pittman. It's just I think he needs reps, right? I really do just think that's what a guy like
It also
Wyatt
shows
Davis
his
needs.
versatility, right? Like, if you can play left and right, I don't know if he can play center.
He said he had played center, I think, his freshman year.
Okay. So he has some experience, but playing center in the NFL is a lot different.
It is.
And you got Aaron Donald lining up straight across from you. You got to take a shotgun snap and then a bucket step and go pull. It's like,
damn. Yeah, no, that's tough. But I think the Darrisaw thing, is us being cautious because of the injury, for sure. And then
we have a good veteran presence at left tackle. Rashad Hill is definitely not a world beater at left tackle, but he's sufficient.
Yeah, I wonder if any of it comes down to who's going to make Kirk most comfortable.
Who cares
right now? You know what I mean? Because that's really what it should come down to.
As much as I like Kirk Cousins as a person, like, I think he's a great dude, I fucking hate him as a football player, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what makes him most comfortable in the pocket, because we know that at the first sign of pressure, he's just going to sit.
Yeah, it's very true.
So I don't really care what he's thinking.
So no concern for Darrisaw.
No. I'm not like, is his career in jeopardy because he's the second string left tackle going into the first preseason game?
No.
This
was a surprise to me, and I have heard over and over and over again, and I'm going to try, and if anybody's watching this that knows beat writers for the Vikes, come on the show, because I want to know what you're seeing. Ollie Udoh's name keeps popping up in a lot of the Vikings reports that I've been hearing as a guy who has taken the step, moving into his third season now. We drafted him as a tackle. we're kind of giving him the Ezra Cleveland treatment. This guy is 6'6" and can move. Are we going to wind up with like an offensive line similar to when Phil Lodeholt was here and all of our linemen are just above 6'6" inside and out, and you're going to lose Dalvin Cook in the backfield? And
the only reason I'm not going to be a huge fan of that large of a line is because of the scheme that we run. So when we had that offensive line with Phil Lodeholt, we were very much a power downhill team with AP in the backfield.
Yeah.
With Dalvin in the backfield, we're very much a side-to-side zone read team. And with that, you need linemen that can move. So like you said, Udo can move, but I think that the overall trend of our offensive line needs to be 6'2", 6'3", and can really, really, really move.
Do you think another part of this is because of the issues that we have in pass protection against teams like the Bears and the Packers with such size head up on our guards? That is something that I had with whether it was Pat Elflein or any of the guards that we've really had over the last 4 or 5 seasons. It's like you walk into Chicago and you go, oh, the Vikings should walk away with a 2-touchdown victory here easily based on who we got. And then Akeem Hicks ruins the entire game.
I definitely think that plays a part in it. I also am not super surprised to see them bolster around Bradbury. Bradbury struggles in the pass protection.
Yeah, he does.
Severely. So a little bit of size on each side, basically both former tackles.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's an accident.
I also think that bodes well for what you're talking about with that lateral quickness. Tackles in general usually have a little bit quicker feet. So to see 2 tackles slide down to the inside of the line, and I also think that's why it would make sense to slide Wyatt Davis, formerly a guard who's supposed to have pulling speed, down to center.
It's just whether or not he can snap under that type of pressure.
Exactly. So yeah, no, I think that is an interesting move. I'm gonna pay very close attention because he's gonna be out there with the ones, which would tell me you'd think some of the Broncos starters are going to be out there. There are a lot of position battles going right there. Our defense is going to be out there. Then that team's, they got Von Miller coming back, apparently. Chubb off, another ACL surgery. You might see him play, you might not, but that defense has got some guys, and they're pretty consistent as far as their pass rush goes. So it'll be good to see Ali Udo out there and see what his output can be against frontline guys.
The one thing I'm not a huge fan of in the preseason is we like all these joint practices. Before we just had a joint practice with the Broncos.
Yeah.
And now we're about to play the Broncos.
Yeah.
Give your rookies a shot. Don't show everything.
Yeah, I know, right?
Practice. I don't know.
I got you.
KJ Osborne as the 3 receiver.
Plus. He's another guy that the media just doesn't shut up about. Apparently has really developed in between, years 1 and 2. Or is it 2 and 3? It's 1 and 2. And if that it speaks volumes because there are guys in that locker room that have been there for long. BB, Olabisi Johnson, D.D. Westbrook is on the roster.
BC's hurt.
Right. But even still, the depth chart is telling, right? This tells you that when he's getting his reps with the ones, he's a difference maker.
Does Osborne start week 1 though?
Yes. I think he actually starts until Smith Marquette or whatever is ready to take over.
Smith Marquette.
I think he starts until that guy's ready.
So you don't see D.D. Westbrook
I think he's a spot player as somebody who you will see spell Thielen or Jefferson more frequently than you would see him as a slot player.
See, I would like to see D.D. on the outside
to start the season.
I would like to see D.D. on the outside with Jefferson and Thielen in the slot,
and that would work too. But I think if you're moving Thielen into the slot, then it's going to be one of these things where, and D.D.'s not healthy either, right? D.D. Westbrook isn't healthy yet either. So this will allow you to bring D.D. Westbrook along slowly, not risk injury. It does give you the opportunity to allow him to focus specifically on special teams during his rehab, and then he can fold into this offensive system slowly instead of having to worry about making any mistakes. Osborne was obviously in this system last year, so you could even make an argument that he has a better grip of the playbook than D.D. Westbrook would have at this point, even with the connection to the wide receivers coach that we have. So I like the move. It does not surprise me, and I think this is probably where it's gonna stay for the time being.
Okay.
What about you?
Like I said, I would probably expect. I was expecting Westbrook to be our 3rd receiver when he was signed. So I'm going to stick with that until I see something that changes my mind. That could be this Saturday.
Yeah.
But nothing has changed my mind yet.
Okay. So who's next?
Harrison Hand is sitting at the third string corner position. So if Gabe would be nice enough to switch over to defense,
It'd be cool
on the screen here.
This one surprised me as well. We heard all offseason about how much better he had gotten. And he came on very, very strong at the end of last season, along with Cam Dantzler.
I just don't see who he would knock out of the depth chart, though. Like, you got Patty P and Bashad Breeland starting at corner.
Yeah.
Your nickel guy right now is probably Mackenzie Alexander.
Yeah.
You go dime, you bring in Dantzler.
Yeah,
Who's he knocking out of that depth chart?
I think he could spell Alexander. And unfortunately, I think that's the only place he makes the field at, right? Is as the nickel
and I think
guy.
Alexander's just getting better.
I know.
As well. So that's the thing. Is like, I'm not too surprised at this. That's kind of where I thought Harrison Hand would kind of sit his whole career when we drafted him in the 5th or 6th round.
Yeah. This room's got depth.
I mean, we went and got veteran corners too that just slid him down the depth chart further. So he's not going to hop Patty P
or Brashad Breeland.
No. So
who, by the way, both have been lights out at camp.
I'm not too surprised by this move. So
yeah, I mean, I also think that he is going to be the X factor. If we have an injury, he's going to be the guy that if you say he's taking the steps that he has taken, and you can just remind him to stay ready. With a guy, Breeland is coming off an injury. Mackenzie Alexander was banged up when he was here. Cam Dantzler has a thinner frame. Pat P is older. Harrison Hand is really just going to have to come into every single week of the season with a next man up mentality. And if anybody goes down, which Dantzler is even prone to doing, getting shaken up pretty consistently, is be the guy. I'm going to step in and I'm going to play my ass off, and then I'm going to earn another down. That's the mentality he's going to have now. But I hope that it works out for him. I really do, because I think he's going to be a guy that, when given opportunities, if he performs, will be a Viking for a very long time.
I would agree. I'm excited to watch the Vikings on Saturday.
Me too.
See some new names.
Like that guy right there.
Yep.
Xavier Woods.
All right, let's run through the NFC and AFC West predictions here. So we're going to be doing a prediction the next 4 weeks.
Of the
4 weeks of the preseason.
Yeah. Well, there's only 3 weeks of preseason, but.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're starting before, though.
Yeah.
So it's.
Our
last prediction will be going into week 1 along with our week 1 predictions.
Correct.
So we're going to start with the West, the AFC and NFC West. Let's start in the AFC.
Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, let's start with the Raiders.
So I took the under on them when I was in Vegas, but they were at 8.
Okay.
So FanDuel's got them at 6.5. This is a bad football team, and it's Gruden's fault. It is 100% Gruden's fault. Carr came out today, said he wanted to play quarterback till he's 45, and everybody was giving him shit for it. The unfortunate truth is Carr's been doing his job. John Gruden has not bought in on Derek Carr, and that system is not built around him as a successful quarterback.
Oh, John Gruden never really has had a quarterback-built system. Right. It's always this West Coast power, play action, play good defense. He's a very...
Spider 2Y banana.
Exactly. He's a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Traditional football coach.
Stubborn
in set in his ways.
Yeah. So I've got them splitting all of their division games, just trying to be, because they seem to be the team that early in the season consistently always wins ball games that they shouldn't and then loses ball games that they shouldn't. So I'll give them the division split, especially considering that they almost knocked the Chiefs out twice last year. So I've got them splitting division games, and then they get wins against Bengals, Eagles, and Steelers. Bad football teams where their defense is just going to be better than the offense that they're playing against. 6-11, and this team will only get to that mark if Josh Jacobs runs for 1,700 yards and 10 touchdowns. This team will go as he goes, and that's going to be about it.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see Josh Jacobs hit that 1,500-yard mark, especially with 17 games. I think Derek Carr has a good season, getting more comfortable in the Gruden system.
Yep.
I'm going to have to agree with you, but I'll go 7-10.
7-10?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think they're necessarily a bad football team. They're kind of the definition of a mediocre football team.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Like, they could beat a good team
any given Sunday,
and they could also lose to a really bad team.
Yeah. And that's just, and with all the people that they've had retiring and leaving, and all of a sudden, frantically over the last month, their president retired after just getting them into Vegas. There's some weird stuff going on with the Vegas Raiders.
Yep.
So we can move on to the Denver Broncos next. if you want to go ahead and kick that one off.
Well, I see your note here, and I think you're 100% correct. This team, first of all, they need to find an identity.
Yeah, badly.
They-
Jerry Jeudy
they
needs to be a part
flat
of it.
Don't have an identity right now.
Yeah.
Even when they had Peyton Manning wasn't their identity.
No.
Their identity was that defense.
Yeah.
And that defense is old.
Yeah, and getting older.
Can't perform.
And now they've got
And
a very expensive safety.
I've never been too high on Bradley Chubb.
I think but the best ability is availability, and he doesn't have that.
Right. And I don't know. I would see that this team actually probably finishes last in the AFC West this year. I'm gonna go 5-12.
5-12. Okay, I've got them at 7-10. They're gonna beat the Bengals, the Raiders, the Lions, the Eagles, the Steelers, the Jets, and the Jaguars.
You see them beating the Steelers.
When we cover them, we're gonna talk about it. The Steelers, I think, are going to be one of the worst teams in football this year, and it's gonna lead to the dismissal of Mike Tomlin.
He hasn't missed the playoffs once.
This year will be the year it falls apart.
All right. We might have to bet on that one.
So, so 7-10 for them. Drew Lock needs to step up if they make him the starter, and they need to use Teddy as a trade piece. Or Teddy needs to be the most efficient game manager, throwing very similar to what he did with the Saints offense.
You have a game managing quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater, but you don't have, what's the running back situation like?
Melvin Gordon.
Okay.
Jerry Jeudy.
Not
Sutton.
Melvin Gordon.
Noah Fant.
Is Melvin Gordon the Melvin Gordon that we thought he was in San Diego / Los Angeles, though?
No, but he's serviceable.
So you have a serviceable running back
with
a game managing quarterback,
and then
one weapon at receiver.
I think Noah Fant's vastly underrated at tight end as well.
This is a bad football team.
Okay, all right. Let's get into next. We've got the Los Angeles Chargers, possibly on the selling block here within the next year or two. They've got them at a 9. Over-under's 9.5. Mike, what do you got?
Over.
I'm
going to go 10-7.
Okay.
Possibly a wild card berth.
Okay.
I think that Herbert, as much as I thought Justin Jefferson deserved the Rookie of the Year last year, Herbert will just continue. I don't think he'll have a sophomore slump.
Okay.
I don't think he will. I think he'll just continue to get better. I think, like you said in our notes here, Derwin needs to return to form, and Bosa stays healthy. That defense could be very, very good.
Okay.
It's basically on Herbert's shoulders.
I agree. And for that reason, new city, new coach, new system, inconsistent health on defense, trouble at the ownership level on whether or not this team will continue to operate as such under the same ownership. He will lift them to a 9-8 record.
Okay.
I have them just slightly on the under because that's a lot of new. And the teams around the NFL are now going to have a full season of tape on him. So there are going to be games where he steps back. I don't think he's going to slump his way all the way through the year, but I think there were opportunities for him last year when even good defenses didn't know what he was going to do, where he got away with some stuff. Those better defenses are going to be prepared for that this year. And so those opportunities are going to be limited, and that's what has me having them as a 9-8 football team.
All right.
Okay.
So mediocre,
middle of the road. Okay.
Well, let's take a look at one of the best teams in the NFL.
They're the
Would
best
you agree
team
with that?
in the NFL.
They're the best team in the NFL. You think?
Very close. If
All
not,
right.
it is. If not that, yeah.
Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah. Beating the Browns, the Chargers twice, the Eagles, the Washington football team, the Giants, the Raiders twice.
Stop. Who do you have beating them?
4 teams.
Do you remember any of them?
I'd have to go back.
I know you
and
went
look
through
at
the
their
schedule. Yeah. So we both kind of went through the schedule and just kind of counted up our wins and losses.
Yeah.
I
think one of them was the Green Bay.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
could beat them.
You know what I mean? Like, I was just looking at teams on the schedule where you're like, yeah.
Well, you have the Vikings beating them then. Or was that preseason?
That was preseason.
Yeah, that was preseason.
But I think, they struggle with Baltimore. They struggle with Green Bay. They don't play a lot of games. Like the Browns, I think, are going to be a massive game for them this year where they could get a loss. I just think there's 4 opportunities in there for them to lose football games is really all I'm saying at this point.
Their defense isn't improved as much as I would have liked to see.
But that
improved.
Offensive line has gotten immensely better.
True, but that wasn't the only issue. Tampa Bay could score pretty much at will in that Super Bowl.
Yeah,
They
but
took 10 minutes, milked the clock, touchdown.
I
All right,
agree.
Mahomes.
But now
You've had basically 10 minutes of game time, which is damn near an hour, sitting on your ass. Like, come on and try to do something crazy now.
I agree. But I mean, do you remember the old Campbell's Chunky Chicken Noodle Soup commercials where Donovan McNabb was scrambling for his life with his mom on the sideline, and it lasted like 3 minutes, and then he got the ball off? That's what you're going to see this year from Patrick Mahomes. The offensive line has improved enough to where now when he's making, like when he can move the pocket and be mobile, it's not going to be because he's in trouble. It's going to be because he has the ability to extend the play, which is going to make that offense even more efficient. I think they looked at the free agency pool and went, I don't want to spend money on defense. We've got Chris Jones. We've got Tyrann Mathieu. Yeah, sure, we lost Rashad Breeland. We can address some specific things in the draft. The defense is going to be good enough.
The defense is very top heavy. They have
Very
like a
top-heavy.
few dudes, and then it. Yeah, that's my question. Where do you see the 4 losses?
Oh, let me go back and look. I'll look for this up while Mike gives his synopsis of who he thinks the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be this year.
Yeah, because Pittsburgh is going to suck. Now, he has the Chiefs beating Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Did you have them beating the Cowboys? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Bills? You had the Bills beating the Chiefs.
I got it up on screen here too. I don't know if you saw.
Yeah, no, I was just re-looking at the
See,
schedule.
and you're right, though, Nick. Honestly, like Cleveland could steal week 1 if the Chiefs lose week 1 and then go to was it at Baltimore week 2?
Yeah.
So if they lose week 1 to Cleveland, which they could, now you're sitting at 0-1. You have to go at Baltimore on Sunday Night Football. Like Lamar could steal game like that one.
Yep.
Now all of a sudden you're sitting at 0-2. You have a divisional rival, Los Angeles, coming up next. Like this could go bad quickly.
Yeah, because then I think, I was just looking at the opportunity. So Browns, Ravens, Bills, Packers.
Okay.
That was it. There's nobody else on the roster that can compete with what
And
they
see,
have.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. This is kind of like the football equivalent of the Warriors.
Yeah.
Like they're so high powered.
You're just looking for spots where they might be able to lose.
But if it's whether or not they get in their own way.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
If they don't trip themselves up, I'm gonna say 14-3.
Yeah, this is going to be one of the best teams in football.
Yep. Unless I would say it all starts week 1. If Cleveland can steal a game in Kansas City to start the year, Chiefs might be in trouble.
Yeah.
Like they might be sitting at 11-5 with another AFC West team sitting, or 11-6 with another AFC West team sitting at 10-7, and all of a sudden they're in danger of losing the division.
This is a first place team playing a first place schedule with the teams that finished in their divisions in first place last year not being flukes.
Right.
So there's an opportunity for a stumble to happen. Thankfully, I trust enough in Andy Reid and the rest of the players in that locker room. But
and I mean, it's the same argument that you made about Josh Allen, right? Now we've only had 3 years of this Chiefs team on film?
More and more.
Like it's just going to be easier and easier to stop as you move forward.
Absolutely. I agree. So let us know, folks, what you think.
We both have the Chiefs finishing first in the AFC West.
Yep.
Who do you have finishing last in the AFC West?
Would be the Las Vegas Raiders at 6-11.
And I have the Broncos.
Okay. So we will also post these on social media, folks, but comment into the show, even post tense. We will make sure that we respond to any of your questions, comments, concerns, or complaints as far as what these records are going to be in the AFC West. Did we get it right? Did we get it wrong? Does Mike need to have hair like the sloth behind me? We can figure all that out in the comment section. Now we can move on to the NFC West. We can kick it off with the Arizona Cardinals. FanDuel has them as an 8-win team for the over-under. I've got them finishing 5-12.
I think it's somewhere in between.
Okay.
Good enough team to beat decent teams in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not sold on Kyler.
I'm not either. He shows up some weeks and looks
He's just not consistent, right?
He almost looks disengaged
right.
Some weeks, right? And I was looking at it. I think the Cardinals are very much trying to do what the Chiefs are doing, where they're just going to load up the offensive side of the ball and try to boat race everybody, but they still haven't figured out the running back position. Not a huge fan of who they have sitting out there at tight end right now. So that takes away 2 weapons. AJ Green is aging. DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best receivers in the league for sure. Larry Fitzgerald, who knows if he's coming back or what, they've got Christian Kirk. So, okay, there's opportunities out there at wide receiver, but I don't think the offensive line is nearly good enough. Kyler Murray shows up disengaged. And if they lose Chandler Jones, on the defensive side of that football in the same season where they're already losing the veteran leader in that locker room for the last, half decade or more in Patrick Peterson. This does not go well. I don't think Cliff Kingsbury is ready for the buzzsaw he's about to walk into this season. So I had to say, what were the cakewalk games that I know that they can for sure get? Jags, Texans, Panthers, Lions, Cowboys.
Cowboys is a cakewalk game.
I don't like the Cowboys. I think they are also going to be a terrible team this year. Dak can't get his arm right after his ankle. Good job, Jerry. You paid another injury-prone player.
As much as I agree with pretty much everything you said, Arizona finds a way to steal some games like every year.
Yeah, that's true.
So if they win the cakewalk games, they steal 2 or 3 like they do every year, they're sitting at 7 or 8 wins.
Okay. Fair enough. It's all going to be on Kyler.
It's all going to be on Kyler.
So if they make the playoffs, you might as well give him an MVP trophy.
Yeah, I would agree with that. If the Cardinals make the playoffs, Kyler should win MVP.
Or at least Offensive Player of the Year.
Right.
Yeah. So next we've got the Seattle Seahawks. I don't want to talk about them, do you?
No.
Okay, we have to, though.
Just say a record and we'll move on.
11-6.
10-7.
All right, cool. We can move on.
All right.
The Los Angeles Rams with some of the new pieces.
Should we give some background of why we hate the Seahawks?
We're
so
Vikings fans. I can't stand snapped balls over the head of Russell Wilson for him to throw it 60 yards. I do not like pretty much anything wide left anymore.
Pete Carroll just rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah.
I used to be a huge Pete Carroll fan. And him and Sean Payton can go in a rowboat and never come back.
Moving on. Los Angeles Rams. 10 over under is 10.5. Lots of new pieces, and they're missing a running back now. I have them at 10-7. Wins against the Bears, Colts. They'll beat the Cards twice. Giants, Lions, Texans, Jags, Vikings, and Seahawks. Gave the Vikes a loss in our prediction as well because we've got the cross-country trip.
But that doesn't matter.
It does matter. Travel does matter, Tim, if you're watching.
I'm going to have to agree with you. Right around the 10-7, 11-6 mark. This is a good football team.
Yeah.
Not great, though.
Top heavy.
Top heavy. Not a lot of depth. If they suffer some injuries, they're in deep doo-doo. But they can contend with anybody in the league, right? They play the Chiefs. It's not a runaway.
No.
The Rams can stay up there.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see what Stafford can do.
He's going to have more than one receiver to throw to, which is going to be
very
incredibly interesting. And he's going to have an offensive-minded guru.
I think we see Matt Stafford in the playoffs.
Career year.
Yep.
Career year in yards and touchdowns. And probably limits the amount of interceptions he throws. Yeah.
Probably. So it's either going to be because of the cakewalk schedule that the Niners have.
Yeah, they got.
I'm going to say the Niners win the NFC West, but it is close. And it's between the Rams and Niners.
I think it's between the Seahawks and the Niners because I got them both at 11-6.
I'm not talking about the Seahawks.
I know.
No, I'm not even acknowledging their existence. Rams or Niners.
Okay. Fair enough. So that's what you got. Last team would be the San Francisco 49ers, who it's a quarterback battle without it being a quarterback battle. It is very much Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes in San Francisco, based on some of the reports that we've been seeing. Trey Lance is already coming to the line at camp and audibling protections. I think he's going to be ready to go a lot sooner than people think. I don't think we see him this year because they're going to try to give Jimmy Garoppolo the opportunity to raise his trade value before they go ahead and move him or cut him or whatever the case may be. But I also worry a little bit about Jimmy's health and if Trey gets thrown in early. Can George Kittle stay healthy? Is Brandon Ayuk going to take a step? How good is Deebo Samuel going to be with more tape on him? They did lose Matt Breida out of the backfield this last year. The offensive line isn't getting any younger. The defense hasn't necessarily gotten any better. It's just the same as it was.
Gotten healthy.
It's gotten healthier. 11-6 football team, but they're a first place team playing a last place schedule. So that's beat the teams you're supposed to beat.
Right. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Lance during the regular season without a Garoppolo injury.
A Garoppolo trade.
Or a Garoppolo trade.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if Garoppolo just gets benched for Lance.
I mean, it wouldn't be the wise. I would not be surprised. Business-wise, would not be the smart idea. You got to give Jimmy the opportunity to play well enough at the trade deadline for you to be able to move him and then go out and recoup.
True. So you're going to give him the opportunity. He's going to start week 1. But if you're losing to the Lions late in the third quarter and Jimmy G is not performing, like,
You've given Jimmy enough rope to hang himself with.
and here's the thing, even if Jimmy ends up on the bench, he doesn't get traded, it comes to the end of the year, they don't renew his contract, he will go somewhere and start.
No, I agree.
Like, I think Jimmy Garoppolo will be a starting quarterback in the NFL next year, pretty much barring a life-threatening injury.
In Miami,
Over Tua.
Tua's not the guy.
We'll get to that later.
Those are teasers for the next time you should check into the show, folks.
Yep.
Say, can I break in really quick because we missed something and I really
Yeah.
want to hear Mike's take on this. It's something we talked pre-show.
Yeah.
Zimmer's, did you hear what Zimmer said about Bridgewater at the press conference?
I did not.
Okay, here it is on
that
screen.
clip. Or yeah.
Vikings head coach Mike Zimmer on how Teddy Bridgewater has improved since being in Minnie. He's always been a real steady kid that doesn't get flustered. He understands situational football really well. He's got a quick release. His movement in the pocket's even better. People are going nuts on Reddit because they're saying that this is a subliminal at Cousins, who is not steady and who does not play situational football well.
And does not have a quick release or good pocket presence.
And a Vikings beat writer kind of put this out, and he had a couple wink kind of tweets after that and stuff like that. So, I mean, what's your take on that? Would he take Teddy back in a second?
I would take Teddy back in a second.
Over Kirk?
Listen, I like Kirk. Kirk is a good quarterback. Kirk is also overpaid and underperforms consistently.
So what's always bugged me about the Kirk Cousins deal, I was a Kirk Cousins fan in Washington. Like, if you know his story, being drafted behind RG3 in the same year,
yeah,
given credit whatsoever.
He wasn't given credit at the draft. He won an ESPY for how well he played at Michigan.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Worked his tail off to become the starter in Washington. Played extremely well in Washington, 4,000 plus yards. I think 2 out of his 4 seasons there.
Mike does like that.
Multiple franchise tags.
I like Kirk Cousins. However, what's always frustrated me about the Kirk Cousins deal was we paid him as he's a top 5 quarterback, and he's a top maybe 12 quarterback.
I would agree.
And that's why, like, when it happened, I was on the side of let's re-sign Case Keenum for a small amount of money
and get all the players around
bolster him because he clearly can play well enough to get us to that.
Mm-hmm.
We needed at the time that we made the deal, we needed a better offensive line.
And it would have left the Vikings open for the opportunity to go out and get a guy like Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, Patrick Mahomes, and Mitchell Trubisky. Those guys were all a part of that same draft class from the year that we signed Kirk Cousins. Case Keenum would have been the safe option with the most amount of upside. So I think the fan base has realized that. The unfortunate truth as to why I think Zim can't just come out and say, yeah, I wish we would have kept Teddy because the Kirk thing didn't work, is because Zim and Spielman were the ones that stood on the table and said we needed to figure out the quarterback position after the debacle that was Teddy Bradford Keenum.
And what's unfortunate is Teddy Bridgewater, in some alternate reality out there,
is an MVP candidate.
Is the franchise quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings
and
right
now.
I think the only thing that is different between that reality and this reality is he doesn't injure his knee.
Whatever blade of grass forgot to get cut.
If he doesn't injure his knee in that camp, like, let's not forget that year prior, he had a great, efficient year as the Vikings quarterback.
And every word coming into camp that following year that he had figured out the one thing that he had left to work on, which was the consistency throwing the deep ball.
Yep.
And we had just gotten, Thielen was
really breaking out at the time.
Mm-hmm. Diggs was what we got.
So does this mean that Zimmer would take Teddy back now over Kirk?
Good coin toss on that one.
Not necessarily.
But the fan base would.
I think Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than Teddy Bridgewater, but Teddy Bridgewater's upside at the time that we had him on the roster was so high. And unfortunately, I think that injury made him from like an A potential quarterback to B-. I
agree. And I had a follow-up question to this for you, because I see this as a potential scenario. The Vikings stumble out of the gates. It's bad. Worst case scenario. Elway rings and goes, hey, I need to figure out my quarterback position. Would you guys take Teddy and a pick back and maybe a player for Kirk? Do you pull the trigger? You get Teddy.
I think it would depend on why we're losing games.
We all know why it would be.
Hell yes.
So you straight up are telling me Kirk Cousins is sucking through 3 weeks and we're 0-3 is basically what you're saying.
No, I'm just saying, like, when I say stumble out of the gates, if you get through the first 4 games, right, you just look at the statistics. When you have mathematically by history eliminated yourself from playoff
Like
contention.
1-3 after the first 4?
1-3, 1-4, whatever the case may be, and Elway rings because the Broncos defense is playing better than it should. Jerry Jeudy seems to be a guy, but their quarterback position seems to be the issue. And you have the opportunity to offload his contract to bring back Teddy, a pick that we may be able to flip into some form of Deshaun Watson trade or leverage for surrounding him with pieces. Do you pull the trigger?
I might, and I would be looking at Teddy as the veteran presence for Mond at that point in time.
My point exactly, because he's on a 2-year deal right now with Denver. You give him this year, next year. You let Kellen Mond sit this year. They compete for it with Teddy going into camp being your starter the first year. The second year, it's a wide open quarterback battle. And if he doesn't make the team, you can release him and he'll probably go get signed on a veteran minimum deal. Not to mention, from the business standpoint of things, the return of Teddy Bridgewater to Minnesota will continue to put butts in seats at US Bank Stadium, regardless of if the team is relevant or not. I think you pull the trigger 8 times out of 10.
Do you guys know why the Vikings would not be winning? Because we would be unsteady and not playing good situational football.
At the quarterback position. And that would be, and by the way, a trade like that would be a great way for Mike Zimmer, who would be catching a lot of heat in that scenario, and Rick Spielman.
Would that buy him another year?
To buy them another year, because they can say, listen, Teddy got hurt. I never got to do it with the quarterback that I wanted to. We were bootstrapped to Kirk Cousins because we had a roster that was in a Super Bowl window. But now give me one more year to retry it with the guy that I drafted and that I believed in from day one.
Let me say one quick thing just to Mike on this too, is this is why we need Teddy. We need him now, because we'd be the 2000 Ravens. It would galvanize the locker room. He 100%. Would drive there's something to that. We're loaded enough talent. Just drive the offense. Don't everyone galvanized. Yes.
Don't crash the car. Where'd the coin go? Do you have it?
We have a thief in here.
We have a thief. Gabe came in
and
stole it. Oh! Is that what you're going to pay Buxton with?
Did we actually lose the coin?
I have no idea where it went. Oh, well.
Oh, that's funny.
You guys are the only 2 in the room, so
literally been the only. I was sitting right here.
It's all good. It's all good. So let us know. Would you guys take Teddy Bridgewater back? Would you guys? How do you think he's going to be the starter in Denver? And prior to that, what did you guys think about the way that we went through the NFC West? Who's going to come out on top? Who's going to come out on the bottom? And is Jimmy Garoppolo going to be the starter through the trade deadline for San Francisco? This is going 0. Here we go. Tevin Pittman comments in 0 chance we trade Kirk. Zim's coaching for his job. It's more likely Mond starts than we will bring in a QB that doesn't know the system. Kubiak's son hasn't been around for all that long, so I guess that is true.
I agree with Tevin. Just the realistic part of us, trading a quarterback mid-season.
That would be the best way to make
very
good
rare.
Out of a bad situation. I'm not saying it's what I'm hoping for, but if it becomes that, then this type scenario.
That's like a Madden move, though, more than a real life.
Yeah, but it's more fun.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying.
And I would like the Vikings
more. It's just not super realistic.
So yeah.
All right. Speaking of realistic,
let's go through the glass half topic of the day. There is turmoil in New Orleans with what I consider to be the most overrated receiver in the NFL.
Hey, he is the best slant route runner ever.
Mike, I could catch 80 balls in the NFL running just a slant route.
Can you catch 107?
149. So Michael Thomas is on the outs with the entirety of the Saints organization because rumor has it in week 1 in garbage time last year, messed up his ankle real bad when they just could have had him out of the game, protecting the clock. They coaxed him back into playing. Knowing that it was going to be Drew Brees' last season. And I think because they knew they were also going to not be able to afford to lose another weapon because Drew, 2 seasons previous, both times, was just going to miss 5 weeks. It's going to help his shoulder at playoff time, right? So whatever the injury was, it's going to be 5 weeks. We got a good backup quarterback for that reason. They coax him back into playing. Season ends. He gets a second opinion. They say, no. You absolutely should have gotten surgery. And now He wants to do it on his time because they made him play on theirs. So let's go over who the glass is half full for and who the glass is half empty for on Michael Thomas being on the outs with the New Orleans Saints.
I think the glass is half empty for the Saints.
Okay, why?
Because this was a team 3 years ago that was absolutely loaded with star-studded talent, and
Cat purgatory.
they were deep. They had great depth, and now not so much.
The cupboard is bare.
Drew Brees is gone.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have anybody to throw to with Michael Thomas on the outs.
I don't think he had anybody to throw to with Michael Thomas there, but continue.
I mean, he did have 140 whatever receptions, but he's not a top 5 receiver. But like, if you heard tomorrow, if you woke up to news that the Vikings were acquiring Michael Thomas,
Blow it all up. He's locker room cancer.
really?
I hate him.
Okay,
You know who I think the glass is most half full for if you're done?
go ahead.
The New Orleans Saints.
What?
Listen to this. Michael Thomas.
They're going to be a worse team this year without him.
Michael Thomas is the target version of Marcus Colston. I'm sorry. A big body receiver that looks great with Drew Brees throwing him the football. But he's no different than any other Saints. Name another Saints receiver outside of Joe Horn out that started there and went to another franchise and was successful. I'll wait.
Sorry, I don't know my Saints receiver history.
You can't say it was
Super well.
Dante Stallworth. Marquise Colston never got off the ground after he left. Even guys like Jimmy Graham leave that system and they look like
Jimmy Graham
garbage.
wasn't great.
This is glass half full for the Saints because guess what? No, if anybody in the NFL is paying attention right now, they need to go, yeah, no Saints receiver, ball catcher has ever proven themselves outside of this system. There's no way your trade value drops immediately. You can't, and especially with a bum ankle now, what are you going to get in return for him? Not enough for what you think he's worth if he stays in the system. So guess what? He hamstrung himself into playing. If he wanted, he should have sat out and said, no, I'm getting the surgery. Regardless, you are a human who is capable of making your own decisions. So you should have made the one that you wanted to make and gotten the surgery. If that's what's rubbing you the wrong way, it doesn't matter if they tried to coax you into playing or not.
It's like the whole Pippen argument, right? Like Pippen took the whole offseason, enjoyed it, and then got surgery as the season started.
And look how Pippen took heat for it.
He did, but he also went on to a different franchise and had success.
And I highly doubt that is going to be the same case for a guy now he played an entire season on a bum ankle and now has to get surgery and then do the rehab process and then prove that he's going to be healthy again.
I think if Michael Thomas finds the right fit, and that's the biggest thing, is like Jimmy Graham in Seattle was not a great fit.
Jimmy Graham anywhere outside
that was
New
a
Orleans
power
is not a great
team.
fit.
Like he's a vertical threat tight end, and the two teams that come to mind that he's played at since New Orleans is Chicago, which is a power run downhill team, and Seattle. Green Bay.
And he couldn't make it work in Green Bay.
Green Bay is not necessarily a vertical threat team, though. I don't know how to describe Green Bay. They're like a pistol offense. It's goofy as hell.
But my point is, like, he's been in situations where he's supposed to be the guy and look like the one that he was supposed to look like in New Orleans. Same thing with all the other guys that you have seen leave New Orleans that are pass catchers. Like, yeah, they're going to have moments where they look like above average talents.
See,
he will not ever catch it.
The tough thing is like that offense of the wide open, fast receivers, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, like that. Those offenses are kind of going the way of the dodo. Right now, and that's the style of receiver that he is. So if he is going to have success, he needs to find a team that he fits into.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know the numbers and the contract and stuff, but like, put him on the Chiefs.
He just got a big deal.
Put him on the Chiefs
last year.
You tell me he doesn't have success?
I mean, but is that his success, or is it Patrick Mahomes, the offensive line, the fact that he's being uncovered by Tyreek Hill?
Is he better than D.D. Westbrook?
Remains to be seen.
Really?
Remains to be seen.
Wow. I disagree.
I'm sorry. I have the same. We were talking about this pre-show, right? And we've talked about it on this show. Every organization has a thing they do really well. Every organization has something that they don't. Timberwolves can't draft point guards. Packers are always going to get it right at QB, right? You can always tell me that the Steelers are going to have great wide receivers that are good in the Steelers organization, and then they're going to disappear when they go to the Jets or whatever team follows them. You can say the same thing about the Saints wide receivers, man, and their running backs.
I'm doing the slow pack right now to get out of here because I don't want to yell at you.
I'm sorry. Michael Thomas.
You just said Michael Thomas isn't better than D.D. Westbrook.
Michael Thomas will never catch another 100-pass season in the NFL.
I mean, I'd agree with that. I would
Then
agree
you
with
can't
that.
pay him the money you're paying him. They're paying him like a Marvin Harrison.
I mean, you paid him like a Marvin Harrison because you had a Peyton Manning. They don't have a Peyton Manning anymore. Is that Marvin Harrison's fault?
Reggie Wayne seemed to make it work. So did Pierre Garçon.
That was the Hall of Fame quarterback that you had elevating their play.
I got you. No, I know that. All right, folks. Let me know what you think. Is Michael Thomas going to play in another game in a Saints uniform? Do you think he'll ever crack the 100-catch mark?
Do you think D.D. Westbrook is better than Michael Thomas?
Yes, we do. Let us know what you guys think. We appreciate you all for joining us. It has been a fantastic show. Big shout out to Gabe and Tevin for all the help as
I'm disappointed
always.
in you today. I'm not mad. I'm disappointed.
Make sure you tune in to the Redskins Patriots preseason game tonight if you're looking to watch a little bit of football. Mac Jones and Cam
who?
Newton. Oh, wow. The Washington football team.
Thank you.
Cancel me on social media. I apologize. But that game is going to be going on tonight. Obviously, you're going to get to see a little Fitzmagic. You're going to get to see a little Taylor Heineke. You're going to get to see Mac Jones and Cam Newton.
Cam Newton has been looking great in camp.
Except for the days where he throws 7 picks.
He's been looking really good.
So we'll see, because he says he is back.
I saw him in Florida in the spring. He looked great.
I'm about
physically,
it.
So
we will cover all things football and sports related next week with you guys. Thursday live at 11 on what platforms, Mike?
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube. And if you missed us today, please go ahead and tune into MCN6 on Saturdays at 1 p.m.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will catch you next week.
D.D. Westbrook is better than Michael Thomas?
Yes.
I don't know what you want me to say.
to NBC.